love that music. Play it, play it. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm
All
ready.
right.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Get ready, get ready.
Here we go.
The bass is about to drop.
May the force be with you. The force will be with you always.
All right. Welcome to Week's End, everyone. Is it still playing? I think it is. Do you guys hear Baby Yoda?
That was great. I loved it.
That's the best intro.
That was great. Well, folks, welcome to a midweek episode of Week's End with my usual co-host Ryan and our once and permanent favorite guest, the Nats fan Suzie. Great to have you. Now, folks, why are we doing Week's End? Now, there's actually two things to keep in mind here. So yesterday was May the 4th, Star Wars Day. Today is Revenge of the 5th. But also, if for any of you who may have seen the teaser that was put out today for Loki, of all things, they declared that Wednesdays are the new Fridays because Loki will be released 2 days early. So I don't know if you saw that. So technically,
Nice.
we're doing Week's End on the right day. Ryan,
we're
having a little Star Wars fest today, right?
That's just math, folks. Like that
Correct
down with
science.
it.
Works for me.
I'm down with
and you
it.
know what? After the last few days, I think I'm ready for Week's End early, so I'm down with that. So let's go around. So Suzie, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a cane crystal glow. So repping New Jersey,
Nice.
local craft brewery, pretty awesome. And I'm
Nice,
mixing up my fandoms. I hope you don't mind. Also repping Gryffindor.
Nice. Dealer choice. What you got, Graeme?
I am drinking a Von Trapp family Berliner Weiss style beer because I don't want to just drink. I want to sing. The hills are alive.
Nice.
With the sound of Graeme drinking.
I can dig that. I've got what you referred to earlier when we were on a work call.
The
as
oil can.
The oil can, but it's really it's a metal astromech koozie that's hiding my White Street Brewery Hoptimist.
So, Suzie, we were on a call earlier, and Ryan busts this thing out, but the quality of the call was like awful because it was, the thing that we all have to use.
Right. Yes.
And literally, he picks that up, takes a quick sip, and puts it down. And I was like, I stopped the meeting. I'm like, can we just all stop for a second? I'm like, Ryan, did you just drink out of like a Quaker State oil can? Like, what are you doing?
He's like, well, that's how my week's been.
We do it different down here in North Kakalaki,
All right. Well, enough talking about Star Wars, Suzie. Let's spend the next 2 hours talking about Tintin.
Whoa. I'm muting both of you right now, and I'll just do the show by myself, okay?
One man show with your Baby Yodas.
I know, right?
Actually, I can see that working.
Yeah. I know.
But we're going to talk about Star Wars. We got some good questions. Now, folks, we may have some other guests join us, but I mean, really, all you need is this, right? I mean, let's just be honest.
I feel like we got this covered.
So I'm going to start off with an interesting question. Earlier today, I was having, yesterday, I guess, was having an interesting discussion with somebody where I talked about the fact that, in my opinion, Rogue One is the best of the films. And somebody made a good point. They're like, well, Ryan, why don't you knock me out and bring me back? And they made a really good point, and they said that there's a difference between best film and favorite or beloved film in Star Wars. And that, I think that's very true. So for me, my best film is Rogue One. And actually, I also think Solo is excellent. Doesn't get anywhere near the love that it deserves. But for me, my favorite film is either Star Wars: A New Hope or one of the three. Right? I kind of keep A New Hope, Return of the Empire, and Return of the Jedi all on the same plane. If I had to pick one, it would be the original. It would be Star Wars. So, Suzie, that's the question for you. What do you think is the best quality, and what is your favorite of the films?
Oh man, that is a really good question. I really like that you're dividing them up that way, because I do think that that's a really good way to look at Star Wars. I would agree with you from the perspective that Rogue One is just fantastic. I actually think one of the problems is it set us all up for what could happen with this new round of movies, and that was what we wanted to see in many ways, right? The storytelling is phenomenal. I think it's hard. I found it a little harder though to get emotionally connected to some of the characters. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't. But I loved it. Like I just loved it. I'm like, this is the story I want to see. I would say that I'm definitely a fan of the original three. I'd say probably Empire is, which
so
is
good.
not an original, not at all an original statement. I will say one that does not get nearly enough credit, I would say, is Revenge of the Sith, which is kind of, going back and watching it, which my husband and I did. We went and did all of them. And I realized that I hated, like by that point, I hated them, like the original, the new trilogy so much that I didn't give it enough time. And I think that the main issue is it's too condensed, right?
Yeah.
It's super condensed, but the storytelling is actually fantastic. That last battle is it's up there. I think it's one of the top ones. Again, not my favorite, not the best, but maybe I'll add a category and saying most underrated because I'm responding to Solo.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about Solo. It's terribly underrated. It gets like the bottom position on people's ranking lists.
It's and there's all the people that hate Rian for the Last Jedi too, and I really like it, but I get your point.
Ryan, before we hear your favorite versus best, Suzie, it's funny that you talk about the characters in Rogue One that you couldn't really emotionally, feel that attachment. Of all the characters in that film that I felt an emotional attachment to, it was K2SO, the robot. And when he died, I was like, and even when he says things like, I forget what he says to Jyn at one point, he's like, you're an extraordinary person, or you continue to surprise, when she gives him a blaster. And I felt that he was so, it was kind of like in Solo, this one, I forget the name, the female robot pilot,
too, but they did such a good job with her.
Like a love relationship, like that to me was just like, oh my God, I never thought that they would show something like that. In fact, I got my little K2SO right over there too. My little, here he is. Here's my boy.
Oh man.
Oh, nice.
But so it was interesting that the character that I wasn't a person, it was a robot. Ryan, favorite versus best. Where are you?
Yeah.
So for me, it's favorite, or sorry, I'm going to start with best.
Okay.
It's got to be, for me, it's Empire Strikes Back. So we're going to talk about favorite memory, but I actually don't remember this, but my first film I ever saw in the theater was Empire Strikes Back when I was 5, and my father took me. And the only thing I remember about it is seeing something about when the trauma of C-3PO being destroyed in Cloud City, and it just was like so epic to me. And to me, nothing else can top that. But my favorite is Rogue One. Just like guilty pleasure,
Really?
just guilty pleasure favorite. I would say
it again tonight.
It's been eclipsed, and I tried to start watching it last night because even just the opening cinematics of Rogue One, where they're going to take them from the farm, and I just like watching that, and I fell asleep to it last night. So
dude, when I saw Rogue One in the theaters, and they showed, first of all, I think the final scene of Rogue One is among the best things ever shown in all of Star Wars.
I would agree.
Bar none.
Amazing.
And
amazing.
when they walked in and I was in the theaters when they walked through that door and they showed Leia, I was crying. I mean, immediately it was like tears streaming down my face. It was ridiculous. Interesting thing about Empire, I don't know if any of you have ever noticed this, and believe it or not, I learned about this on Family Guy of all places. In the very end of Empire, pay close attention to what Lando Calrissian is wearing as he flies off in the Millennium Falcon. He's wearing Han Solo's clothes. Why? He's wearing the shirt, the jacket, the pants. He's literally wearing Han's costume. Is that so? That begs the question. First of all, was that like some weird movie goof? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think these movies work that way. So is like that what is that what the captain of a YT or Corellian YT or whatever it's called cruiser wears? So like, why is he wearing Han's clothing? It was very bizarre. And it was funny. Literally, I learned about it in an episode of Family Guy, and Brian, the dog, was like, seriously, go watch it again and pay attention. You'll see. I went and watched it. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? What's going on here?
That's
They're
like
super Star Wars fans.
Yeah, that's like Inception level trivia. I actually have the DVDs of, they did a trilogy with Family Guy, where they actually released these little short films that were like set in the Star Wars universe.
Yes,
those are awesome.
So, favorite character, Ryan. This time we'll start with you. What do you think? Who would you say is your favorite Star Wars character from just all of Star Wars?
Well, it's got to be, if it's not a droid or an alien, if it's a main character, it's got to be Luke Skywalker for me. So
why Luke?
Because
we were kids, and that's what you
when
saw,
when I was a kid, I mean, I think if you came up at that time, he was like the teenager, he was like Peter Parker, and you just identify with that. I think, you like Han Solo, you want to maybe date or be friends with Princess Leia, but I wanted to be Luke Skywalker, and that's just, from that era, right? And then you see his progression. He becomes a Jedi. He gets the sword. He gets the, I wanted to fly an X-wing. Like, I remember vividly my 6th birthday, I got the X-wing toy, and that was all I wanted. Like, period.
Point of order, Ryan. It's not called a sword. It's called a lightsaber. But thank you for playing. Suzie, who would you say is your favorite character?
So controversial here, and this is an additional reason why those movies drove me nuts. I really liked Padme Amidala. I'll say as a strong kind of female character, I love Leia, absolutely love Leia. But the way, I think, especially when I saw those movies, the way that they kind of, there was that strength about that character in the first movie that in the second movie, it gets so bad for her character, right? But I do love how they portray her in the animated series. I think they do a lot of really cool development in that, where you kind of get a sense of who she really is. I love that kind of. If I'm in the animated space, I'll also say, shout out to Sabine Wren, love her. I think that they do some really cool things with the characters there. I think that's been a challenge for Star Wars, is some of the development of some of the female characters. They just, we had glimpses. We had glimpses with Rose, Jyn, amazing, right? But then I think again with Rey, we kind of fell into the Padme trap. Better, not as bad, but I'm not going to talk about the kiss. The kiss irritated me. I was just like, no, can we not? Can we not, please? But anyway, those would be mine.
So for me, I would say that when I was a kid, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as shown in the original trilogy, I really liked him. And there was actually kind of a personal reason, and it was because he looked exactly like my grandfather. Now, I never met my grandfather. He died from cancer long before I was ever born. My mother was still in high school. But the way in which he looked and the way in which I was told my grandfather acted and sounded, quite frankly, Obi-Wan sort of fit that bill. Later, it became Lando, because I just thought Lando was the coolest, and I love capes. I would definitely wear one of them.
There we go. I knew it was the cape.
But as I got older, my favorite character is Uncle Owen, because stop screwing around, kid, and get your friggin' yard work done. Like, I can relate to Uncle Owen.
That is a deep cut right there.
Get your work done, or there will be hell to pay. Like, I can respect that. So my favorite characters have changed over time. It started with my grandfather.
Okay.
I think my husband's favorite character is Lando as well. Nice. Actually, that was his first email address. Was Lando 87. I think at Yahoo, if you want to email his old account, doesn't check it.
Nice.
That's impressive. Okay.
I think this should lead us into there's a nice segue here. When you're mentioning Uncle Owen, and he don't believe in any hokey religions or that mystic guy out there in the sand dunes, I think we should talk about lightsaber or blaster and why. Okay, so we're going to start with Graeme.
Boy, this is tough because really the nerd in me wants to be like, well, it depends on the situation I'm in and blah blah blah. But I mean, I'd have to go with lightsaber because I have a sword that hangs in my house. I just think they're the coolest. I had one a while ago that actually had Yoda's voice, which I remembered recently, that when you press the button it would say like control, you must learn control, and it expanded out and it lit up and made all the sounds. I also think it's incredibly exciting that the Disney Imagineers have created something that approximates what a real lightsaber would look like, and I thought that was really cool. So I just think that the elegance of the lightsaber is great, but Han Solo is so cool that a blaster at my side, when I was playing Star Wars Battlefront with my son for years, I loved using the blaster rifle. So I don't know, man, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to pick lightsaber. But what my color would be, going to go with blue.
Ooh, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah.
Got to go with blue.
All right. What do you think, Suzie?
Why not both? How about Ezra Bridger?
Here we
Ezra
go.
Bridger's saber, lightsaber, that is a blaster.
Nice. I like that.
Again, tying that in.
You know how this would work?
That was cool.
One of my most interesting favorite weapons in all of video games is, how they have like the gun swords in Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Yes.
We need a lightsaber version of that, right?
Right. But
I think you're onto something.
I mean, it's really, if you haven't seen, so as I've now revealed, I really enjoy the animated versions. And if you haven't seen the episode where Ezra kind of creates his lightsaber, it's awesome. Because it's just, they're like, wait a sec. You kind of get this moment where Kanan's looking at it and it's like he's almost like, why didn't I think about that? Because his whole thing, right, is he keeps his lightsaber, separated, and he's using his blaster separately. And he's kind of like, wait a second, why didn't I just do that? I will give a shout out similarly to Ahsoka's lightsabers, though. I'm a huge fan of kind of the dual lightsaber approach that she does. And I love, love, love that they turn white. I think that there's some really interesting things there, right? Where we get this sense of her moving to this other type of force wielder.
Love that.
So I'm really very excited for the Ahsoka series. And I'm hoping we dive a little bit more into kind of that side.
Well, and that's a great point that I really thought that was an interesting move, because I think it's speaking to, there's always been the duality of like light versus dark, and you had to choose red or another primary color, I guess, for your lightsaber, and that's demonstrating that she's neutral, I think, right? Because she kind of fell out of the good graces of the Order, or left it, right? So that's really interesting.
You have the Guardians, and there's like a few things where like the old, where kind of you're seeing the old Order, right? The High Republic. They have those Guardians, and they have the white, or some may say like light yellow ones as well. And you kind of, if you go into, the super kind of geek verse of lightsaber colors, there's some thought that there was this other way of wielding the Force. You didn't just have to go one side or the other. You have an absurd amount of lightsabers, and I love them.
Speaking of wielding,
you are
these
so
are
funny.
This is my best General Grievous impression. Are you ready for it? That's it. That's all I got.
I really hope you don't role play that with your wife. Now let's move on to
a robot with asthma. But I'm going to pick lightsaber for my choice, of course.
Obviously.
And one of my favorite memories as a kid was they had this lightsaber toy. Like when you were our age, they didn't have cool lightsaber toys. They had like one where you like literally blew it up like a float, and then it was literally a flashlight that would illuminate this tube. And literally, like, you would go fight your friend and just break it within a week. Like, so it was like,
I broke one of those, and I had to go replace it.
Exactly.
And I was like, what do you expect? Also, the ones that you kind of would flick.
Yes.
And they'd roll.
They go.
And that's what these are, but they're much more sturdy now, of course. So.
Of course. No, Disney makes so much the lightsabers, but
I know,
I'm so jealous. They're like the best.
You're right. They probably are engineered just like Apple products, where
yeah.
they know it's going to last you about like 6 months, and then you need a new one.
Right. You need another one.
Let's dig in a little bit more as to like why does this matter to all of us so much? So why, like Suzie, why Star Wars, right? And I my guess is there's a little more to it than just like, oh, these movies came out and they were blockbusters when we were kids, because it's a big deal. It's never stopped being a big deal. So why does Star Wars appeal to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I remember when the news came out that they were releasing another trilogy. And I was in school, and I remember my mom greeting me and saying, I called into the radio station and I got us tickets and opening night. And it was like the biggest thing ever. And so, that's kind of when you said that was what I was, thinking back to. So it was a really, really important moment. And I think there's a few things. One is I do think that there's some intergenerational connectivity. I think there's something very powerful. And now, the way that they've released them kind of spread out, you can almost have like 3 different generations all, decreasing depending on which one you loved, but with that same opening night experience, right? But I also think that there's just something very kind of magic and epic about them. And I, probably if you were to make me choose Star Wars and Star Trek, I probably would end up leaning a little towards Trek, honestly, as the wall kind of shows behind me, kind of diversity, inclusion aspect and all that. I love Star Trek, but there is just something amazing and awe-inspiring, I think, with Star Wars and with that universe. And just kind of, I think it's the vision that George Lucas started with. You kind of can't deny how fantastic that is.
Okay, Suzie, that's all the time we have for you today. We're gonna have to boot you from the show for that last remark.
I'm a huge Trekkie, and I want to make a point there, because somebody a long time ago I thought made a really good point, which was Star Wars is like space opera science or sort of fantasy.
Yeah.
And Star Trek is like science fiction.
Yes.
And so
100%.
I've always looked at them as, I love both of them.
Yep.
I would also consider myself more of a Trekkie than I am a Star Warsy, whatever it is. But I mean, I think that for me, I would agree. It's the intergenerational thing. It's the fact that it was such a huge thing when we were kids. It's also the fact that it's the first time we ever saw something of that magnitude that was really geared towards multi-generational audience. So you can go see it with your parents, and it's good, because think about it. Everything before that was like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it was this like clean version of space, whereas Star Wars was the first time we saw like a dirty, junky, realistic space with droids, but also powerful characters and family drama, and it was powerful stuff. We have a guest.
A new space pirate has entered the field. Wait a minute.
Okay, apparently he's just been shot down by the First Order.
Yeah.
But we expect him to return in a new X-Wing any second now.
Nice.
But really great points. Ryan, why Star Wars for you, man? Why Star Wars for you?
Man, how long do we have? For me, it's just the fantasy aspect of going to different planets that seem real. Like, I really just... It's kind of the first time that you would see things like Dagobah and Hoth, and it's like real enough to feel real, but it's also completely foreign. And then having the alien characters like Yoda and Chewbacca and the droids, like for me, like, hey Eric, how you doing? You there? All right.
What's up?
For me, yeah, it's like the universe. It felt fully formed. It did feel like a galaxy far, far away, but having aliens that were not just, and this is not a knock on Trek, but just don't have a ridge on their forehead.
Fair.
Like a completely different, like I've got 6 arms and I eat, crystals or whatever. Like, but yet they had a human aspect that really made them endearing in the storylines.
And Ryan, I mean, Trek eventually covered that by saying that the reason everybody looks similar is because we were sort of these seeds planted by this. But I agree with that, was the fact that just everything looked different. The other thing I liked about it is it had nothing to do with Earth.
Right.
Like it wasn't Earth in the future, or
There was no
in
Earth.
the
You're right.
90s,
Yeah.
or it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Eric, we're asking the question of why Star Wars? So A, thank you for joining us. B, I hope the grocery store went well. C, I'm very impressed with your lineup of martial arts belts behind you. And D, why Star Wars? Why do you like Star Wars?
I think you nailed it. And sorry, I tried
No
making
rebuttals.
I made the Kessel run, but it took me 14 parsecs. So
Nice.
I mean, it was the thing about Star Wars that's I think endearing is it's got this lightness to it, and I think that was really a hallmark of the original trilogy that was really lost with the prequel trilogy. It lost that light touch. There was I can't say whimsy, but there was a sense of humor to it.
Yeah.
At the same time, obviously, it was a serious action movie and had some very, very heavy plot points. But the fact that it wasn't earthbound, the fact that it had such a wide array of, I think part of it for me is there's like this primitiveness to the technology that in some ways it almost feels like a Western.
Yep.
I think that the initial scenes on Tatooine kind of nailed that home, that it's kind of primitive. It wasn't until years later that I realized, like, it's a moisture farm. They're actually harvesting moisture from the atmosphere. That's what Luke's aunt and uncle did on the homestead there. So
yeah, and if you don't get it done by noon, then if those droids aren't up on the South Bank by noon, then there'll be hell to pay, because those moisture farms are serious.
Tachi Station.
There you go. That's a really good point. One of the things that I've always loved about Star Wars is all like the switches, right? Like all like they're constantly throwing switches and things are actually moving.
There's a texture.
There's
a texture that you don't see in a lot of things.
There's a texture. Like the Millennium Falcon, they have to like move things to make it go to light speed. And I also get a kick out of the fact that there's no labels anywhere in Star Wars. Like if you pay attention to any of the cockpits, like none of the switches have a label. Like nothing is explained. They just all sort of seem to know what it is. But let's take this another route. So Suzie, we've talked about, favorite movie, best movie, characters, why Star Wars matters to us, but where do you want to see Star Wars go now, right? I mean, I know Bad Batch just came out. We'll talk about that in a little while. Mandalorian blew everyone's minds away. There's lots of Star Wars content. I believe they're making another trilogy. So where would you like to see it go? So
I am a fan of Thrawn. I'll be honest.
Yes,
yes, exactly. I love some of the other things they're doing. I think High Republic right now is really interesting. If you haven't taken if you haven't checked out those books, it's really it's fascinating to kind of look at that way. But I love where we're going right now with the latest Thrawn books, and I love the potential tie-in that we may have, right? We know kind of with the Mandalorian, Thrawn may be out there. We know that there's the tie-in from Rebels. And I'm really, really hoping that we get more into that chaotic space aspect, right? Like that whole concept. So if you haven't geeked out in the books, it's definitely something to check out. And I'll be honest, I'm more I've kind of, read the books more recently. But because I just kind of wanted to understand more of, honestly, some of the things they were teeing up in Rebels, because I did enjoy that show a lot. And I would love for them to kind of leave behind Palpatine, Skywalker, all of that stuff. Let's be done with that. Let's do more universe building. And again, this concept of chaotic space where you have these Skywalkers, small s, right, where they're going in a trance. It's like a whole different aspect of the Force, that clearly they're Force wielders. What's going on there? What's kind of going on with the Chiss Ascendancy? I think that would be such a cool way for Star Wars to just really push the boundaries, to use that term. So I doubt that's going to happen. We've heard rumors, but it's
that's one of my biggest disappointments with this sequel trilogy is that they had potential to go one way and they decided to do it J.J. Abrams style and make it a best of reel. And I'm like, they could have done something else.
It's funny, Suzie, because when I talk to my Trekkie friends, we have the same complaint about Star Trek, which is like, why does it all have to be Enterprise and Kirk and like
Yes.
just pick another goddamn ship and we'll do something else. I mean, DS9 was a totally different universe. Voyager,
Love
well, not
that.
universe. I mean, thing.
No. Yeah.
Voyager was a different
Quadrant.
ship.
Yep.
You know, and they have done other things, but like they just keep doing Kirk and the Enterprise, and I love that stuff. But there's so much more world building and universe building. I mean, Lower Decks was a totally different ball game, which was amazing. But I mean, I have a similar complaint, which is like I think that's one of the reasons why I liked Rogue One so much was because it was just something totally different. Solo was same character but totally different. Mandalorian totally different. What about you, Eric?
Perspective, yeah.
Oh gosh, you know,
Where do you want to see Star Wars go?
I got really excited when I heard the premise for The Mandalorian, which was basically, again, tying it back to the concept of the space western. It was basically going to be the rifleman, and so I think that where they're getting it right now, and where they messed up with the last trilogy, is this absence of continuity, this kind of design by committee thing. You know, think about the fact that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni pulled off one of the greatest, let's say, heists. You know, they had to convince Disney that we are not going to put out any type of marketing for this, for toys, for Baby Grogu. We have got to get back to the element of surprise. And that blew up the show in effect.
I didn't think about that. That's so true.
They got an embargo, and it was probably the most brilliant move I think in a long time as it relates to Star Wars specifically, and just movie making in general. Actually, there's a lack of cynicism there, that you've got this team that really cares about the franchise. I'm a little worried that there's too much going on. There's an opportunity here. That you've got so many things going in different directions with the High Republic. You've got the Ahsoka spinoff. You've got the Book of Fett. And then what's the
that's right. I forgot about that.
The Raiders. You got Bad Batch, which again is Filoni. What's the one that Cara Dune was supposed to be in, the sort of the sheriff show? Anyway, so it's going in a lot of different directions right now, which is a lot of opportunity to expand the footprint of what we know of the Star Wars universe. But there's a lot of risk in that there's oversaturation, overexposure, lack of continuity. So I do worry about that.
Eric, one of the risks that they take is they say yes too much. And I think that was one of the problems that happened with some of those re-releases and some of that stupid footage they added into the films and some of the things that happened with the second trilogy, which I totally respect. People like it. And there are parts of it that I love. I mean, pod racing was incredible, right? But I think one of the problems is, and this is why I was glad when Disney kind of was like, yay, we'll take it from here. Thank you very much, Mr. Lucas, was people were too afraid to say no to George Lucas. So it got muddled when he was like, well, I got an idea. Hold on, I got to get my neck to do what his neck does. You know, there was like there you go. There wasn't enough courage to say, nope, we're going to take this in a different direction. And that's why The Mandalorian was such a surprise to me, because they took it in a totally different direction. Now, was it still Star Wars? Absolutely. Was it still full of all the nostalgic things that fans need, but you don't have to be a fan to get it? Yup. And so that's why I think as we got into things like Rise of Skywalker and some of the recent movies, is it got a little muddled because they got back into this pattern of not saying no.
And that's why Solo works.
A bit, right?
That's why Solo works. That's why Mandalorian works, because it's getting into the gray area of good versus evil. It's not the archetypes that you had in the original trilogy, which is you got the good guys with blue swords and the bad guys with red swords, and you got the bad guys with black armor and the good guys with tan, yoga suits or whatever, right? So my point is, like, the gray area now is really interesting to me, because you get to take it in these different directions where, I like that the galaxy is kind of fractured and they don't know where to go next, or they don't know who's in charge of what quadrant or whatever, because it allows you to develop, these interesting sort of original takes on characters that have to thrive and survive, for lack of a better word, in that sort of gray area.
I think
so that's where I thought that I'm sorry, please go ahead. Suzie,
Oh
go
no,
ahead.
I was just going to say that when you're thinking about as you're thinking about, the oversaturation, I immediately was thinking about Marvel, right? Another Disney property who is, doing these crazy releases. And I have to say I keep waiting for us to hit that oversaturation place.
Yeah.
But it's currently it's kind of working. And I kind of think about that versus Star Wars, where it does seem like every time they have multiple storylines, right, it gets muddled. And I do wonder if part of the challenge is that universe building. So so if we move past George Lucas, he kind of had a specific vision, but it wasn't necessarily working with all the different universe. I think that's what Star Wars needs to do and I think they were starting to do that with the second one of the last trilogy, right? A little bit more universe building. They've done that in the books, but somehow they haven't quite taken us there by connecting the movies together.
Totally.
Right. And I don't know what the right thing to do, right? Because DC tried to do that. They didn't follow the Marvel thing. So it's not like Marvel has it down pat, but there's something there about connecting them all together that they need to do. Someone needs to be like the engineer.
But that's the symmetry. I think that's the symmetry where all of these franchises are stumbling, right? Is that DC has had too many false starts because they're trying to second guess how do we do it like Marvel did. Fair. And so, like, for me, I'm like, that's why I want them to #restore the Snyderverse, because I'm like, just give him the keys and let him run with it for 10 more years, because that's what people want. And same thing with the trilogy. Like, you should have given it to somebody other than J.J. Abrams, frankly.
Yes.
And then let them do a trilogy. Don't say we're going to let you do one film like with Last Jedi and then completely retcon everything with the last film of the entire saga. I'm like,
that was so weird.
It's crazy.
It was so bad.
It was so bad. Really frustrating.
The last film, and I've heard now that they're trying to do some. I read an article yesterday that said that they're trying to do some continuity patching with the comics. And it doesn't make any sense.
Good luck.
Come on.
That Vader went to Exegol and knew that.
None of that matters, though. I'm a comic book nerd, and I'm telling you right now, none of that matters. You screwed the movies, and that's the bread and butter, right? That's what everything else flows from. My one hope, to your point, Suzie, is that they can do what I think Marvel and the MCU is pulling off, which is they have a very intentional strategy of saying, we're going to let Falcon and Winter Soldier like do this series over here, and then it's going to jump right into another feature. Exactly. So it's like they're universe building in a TV series and going really, really deep on characters. And they're showing places that you saw in the comic books, like Madripoor from Wolverine and all this stuff and all these deep cuts. And then they're going to bring it right back up to another blockbuster film with Black Captain America. And I think it's going to work. And so I think Star Wars has to figure out that formula, because they have the story. They have like really cool video game storyline now with what they did with the Fallen Order Fallen Order. And then they have the books, they have the games, they have the comic books, but none of that stuff is really meshed in a real way right now.
They have the animated TV shows too, which there was a lot of kind of frustration that they didn't bring some of that in, because there's a lot of thought that the Clone Wars TV show kind of saved, not completely, it kind of helped at least that 3 trilogy. And so not to add anything in, that was a huge misstep. But there's just something about, I think they're putting the movies on this kind of pedestal, right? We have all these other properties, but the movies, are separate. Totally. I think it took Marvel a while to get past that, right? They said, pretend these Netflix things didn't happen. But pretend Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't happen. But anyway,
Well, and you got to remember that Marvel has come out of the seeds of bankruptcy. I mean, I remember vividly when Marvel sold off the rights to everything because comics had crashed in the 90s. Who remembers? And all
the artists said, we're leaving. Like Image Comics, Wildstorm, all that stuff.
Absolutely. The story about the Fantastic Four movie that they made with who's the horror movie guy? Roger Corman. They gave him the reins. They made. I remember the pressers coming out for this, getting so excited that they had a contractual obligation to make a movie or lose the rights to Fantastic Four, and ultimately ended up selling it to Fox anyway. But there's a movie in the can that Roger Corman took seriously that exists. So you got to remember that Marvel went through all these missteps with the franchise, and it wasn't until they got Feige at the helm, got their financial footing back, got certain parts of the franchises back, and started off with Captain America. And we're 22 films in now, and they're on this roadmap.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and so
fantastic. It is such
Iron Man 13 years ago.
And typically,
Sorry, you're right. Thank you.
technically Hulk, right? That's
Yeah,
they're trying
true,
to say.
true.
They're trying to say, even though they recast.
But they've had to reboot him 3 times, so yeah.
So
That's right, because the Eric Bana version. Blah.
let's go back into Star Wars, and now we're gonna
wrong
go.
universe.
We're gonna start with Ryan.
My
Yes.
fault. I'm sorry.
Ryan, no.
I'm gonna go first because it's obvious.
Your
My
favorite
favorite
droid.
droid is R2D2. I have the 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back Dagobah version of the Funko Pop. And then I don't know if y'all can see it, but over my shoulder, I have like 27 R2D2s of various formats. Like
The man loves his R2D2. I have been with him, and he has been shopping in an R2D2
I have
store.
like the metal one that's like from Jabba's barge that's
I was
completely
there when you
metal.
bought that.
And we bought that in Orlando, and I hadn't even taken it out of the box. And then I've got the Sphero droid version. I've got the Walmart remote control version. I've got if it's an R2D2, I have it.
You have a suitcase that's R2D2, right?
Yes, I even have. You're right.
You
You're
have
right.
that on Instagram.
I literally travel with R2 as if he's my astromech, and I talk to him in the airport terminal, and it makes people feel uncomfortable.
That's so weird.
I have also
Why
witnessed
would
that.
it?
Suzie, favorite droid.
Chopper from Rebels. If you haven't seen Chopper, he is one of those droids with attitude.
Nice.
He is. I love R2D2. He had my heart for a very long time. I know, but Chopper like does the R2D2 like zapping people, but like even more.
So he's like Clone Wars. He's like Clone Wars with some extra spunk.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So yeah.
Or sorry,
I
Attack
like
of the Clones. You know how R2D2 like became a badass in Attack of the Clones, and then nothing after
and
that.
Then, right. Yeah. Then he just kind of beep, boop. Yeah, but Chopper has some moves.
That's a favorite droid.
So I had to dig deep. So I just moved into my new house, and I've gotten everything.
What?
Out.
Wow!
This is my Star Wars case as a kid.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah! Oh, dude.
That looks like that almost looks like mint condition, dude. I'm jealous.
It is.
Shut up
It
and
is.
take
Oh
my
my god! Good lord.
Yeah. So
Where do you live, Eric?
Advanced Order Boba Fett. Ha ha ha.
He still has the
These are
rocket.
the ones you had to send off. The
Oh my
UPC.
god!
This is the one.
Dude, this
that
is
came
like
out
your
after-
retirement package.
I hope you have that insured.
It's not that good.
Well, yeah.
It's not that good. You would think it is, but they're all out of the case and they're all played with. There's
they're not
a
like.
fun reference right there.
I had that guy.
I had a bunch of those, but I played with them so much that the paint
medical
was
droid.
off, like crazy.
Oh, the medical droids are awesome.
2-1B.
Remember his thing comes out of his mouth.
2-1B. The one to have, remember FX7 was the companion medical droid?
Mm-hmm.
That one is worth thousands of dollars. The one I have is garbage because all the arms are ripped off and the head is barely intact. So it got played with. So So but my favorite droid, actually, I have to say, K2SO really, really captured me.
I think you stole Graham's thunder.
Alan Tudyk is. I just love him as an actor.
Oh yeah, he made it.
He put so much.
Yeah.
He had so much fun doing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I loved K2SO as well, but if I had to pick a favorite droid, one of the ones that I really got a kick out of when I was a kid was the mouse droid, the little one that was like
100%.
And the reason I got such a kick out of that when I was a kid, I understand R2D2 and all the different droids and C3PO, and they're all amazing. There were so many different droids to choose from. It was like a toy universe. But I loved the detail of the mouse droid. I just thought that was really cute, which I found out later. It's actually a delivery droid. It delivers things. Yeah. But if I had to pick a recent one, you might think that I would say this little guy, but I wouldn't. I would say it would be IG-11, who was based on IG-88 that we saw in
Yes.
Return.
Totally yes.
When did we first see Empire? We saw IG because we had bounty hunters. We don't need their
that's the bounty. That's the bounty hunters, and that was one of the things that with Empire. That's like one of those scenes where we got introduced to Boba Fett, we got introduced to IG-88, but there's just literally like one scene where they're like taking orders from Darth Vader, and then they leave, and we never see him again. And I'm like,
see him again.
What are the stories of each of those bounty hunters? I want to know.
Yes, so I would love to see an anthology series that goes through each one, Bosk, and all of those different characters, where we get like one episode for each one.
Dengar, yes.
Dengar, and all those different characters. But
and what was the woman? What was the woman that had like Aura Singh that had like the red hair?
Aura Singh.
She wasn't in Empire, but she's like in the mythos.
She shows up in Phantom Menace.
Right. Yeah, you're
Aura
right.
Singh is standing on a hill watching the pod racing.
Like she's
very much in the foreground.
I want to see a buddy movie between Aura Singh and Mara Jade. Boom. Thank you.
Yes.
But the reason I liked IG-88 and IG-11 was because they look like somebody just took a bunch of parts and put them together, and it came to life. And I also thought IG-11 had that emotional component, kind of like K2SO in The Mandalorian. Now, we talked about all the shows that we've watched, all the movies that we've loved. What about the games that we've played? What would you say?
And I would say no rules here. If you're a RPG person, if you're a video game person, if you're a board game person, if you're a card game person, tell us what you got deep cut wise for Star Wars. And we'll go, Suzie, yes.
I will say that I'm most familiar with Fallen Order. And I've really been enjoying that recently.
Yes.
But my game is kind of a light touch, I have to say. But that's
yeah, but so have you gotten through it yet?
I haven't.
Do you know what's gonna happen?
My husband did, yes.
Okay, all right. Dang. I mean, I'm gonna say if you want to have a good time on YouTube, go watch the reaction shots to the end of that game. They are amazing. Like, I mean, I've not seen anything like that. Like, probably going back to like, I don't know.
I mean, it's a good. Yeah, his reaction was pretty amazing. That was my own reaction video.
Yeah.
I wish that I would have gotten into the card game. He and his brother got like super into the Star Wars card game. We have like the collectible cards, along with his magic cards. And that just looks like that was a huge. Please tell me that one of you were super into the card game, because
I was into the collectible cards way back in the day. I didn't really do it for the. It's kind of like Pokemon. I didn't play the game, but I wanted the cards.
I heard the game was super confusing. Kind of one of those just didn't quite work, but the cards are like great.
And it's just engineered to make you buy more cards, like we know this.
Of
course. So Ryan, what would you say? So we know you collected the cards. What would you say was your favorite game?
Favorite game, it has to be Dark Forces on PS1. So it's like imagine Dune, except you're invading the Death Star.
Eric?
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were done or not.
I could talk about it at length, but I won't.
I know you could. I know you could.
Well,
Eric, what would you say is your favorite?
It was nice to see Dark Forces get a nod in the end of Mandalorian season 2.
I know, right?
With the Dark Troopers.
So the Dark Troopers
really cool
from that
continuity.
game.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you play a rebel spy who's trying to figure out how they're developing the Dark Troopers, and you're like trying to infiltrate the Death Star and all these planets. Go on.
Oh yes, I just Googled it. I remember that game. Yeah. That's a great game, dude. Eric?
I had to pull up a list. I started with the all the flight games. So I started with X-Wing and TIE Fighter, which I loved TIE Fighter, and I loved as a kid I played the arcade Star Wars games, and I hated the guided trench. I was stuck in this place, and so this opening up the universe, being able to have free range of motion, really thrilled me. The games I really put in the time on, Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Academy. Oh my God, I burned so many hours playing those damn games. Interestingly, the Lego Star Wars games,
Oh yes,
I found
I love those
so
too.
entertaining.
They are.
And
It's something satisfying about it.
Extremely, and I kept playing them over and over and trying to do better and up my scores, and it was just so
There's
much
so many
fun
like
to do
Easter
that.
eggs and things in that are just satisfying. Like it's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
I'm with you.
But
Graham,
I will
how about you?
say
I've
my
had those
all-time
recommended to
favorite
me a
is,
million times.
and they're so kid friendly. I mean,
It's
Yeah.
the age range is amazing.
Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 for PS2.
Yes.
And on PC as well, because I love the
Mm.
combat arena, the real-time combat with other people. And then when you hit the hero mode and can play as different, Jedi and Sith and villains and heroes, that was the best.
So, for me, I would say I got an early start playing the Star Wars Escape from Death Star board game that came out in the 80s. And I used to play that all the time with my sister. And we just recently rediscovered the actual board part in my parents' house. So I really enjoyed playing that. From an arcade standpoint, and in fact, it's literally sitting right there, is I love the original Star Wars video game from the arcade, and that's because I loved going to the Dream Machine arcade in Hadley, Massachusetts, and I would play it all the time. And then eventually, that closed and I never saw it again. And then decades later, I visited the American Classics Arcade Museum in Laconia, New Hampshire, where they have like 400 of the original arcade games, and they had the sit-down Star Wars cabinet, and I, full disclosure, burst into tears because I couldn't believe they had it and was like playing it and felt like a kid again. So when Arcade 1-Up produced it, I bought it, and I literally was playing it. I play it all the time. I played it before we started the show. But then, Eric, I got to agree with you on Battlefront. And the reason I loved Battlefront, is because it gave something that was in common for me and my son, and we played it all the time. And the other thing I loved about it was in Battlefront 1, there's the Hoth station. And I thought it was so cool that it was so accurate to the films that I got to feel like I knew it, like I had been there. So when I went and watched the movie again, I was like, holy shit, I've been there. So
I
those
felt
would
the
be my
same way
three.
about Mos Eisley.
And Mos
I
Eisley,
absolutely felt like they had gotten.
You can go to the cantina and it's like,
mapping.
oh wow, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and the spaceship crashed in the middle of the city. You see that in the films. It's a cultural touchstone. It feels like you know the place.
You know the place, and I really appreciated their attention to detail. I appreciated you could go to run around the Ewok village. I mean, it was crazy, and they were just fun games. And the other thing was, like, depending on how you wanted to get into it, it could just be like a simple, I just want to play with my son, shoot and kill. Like, that's it. It was like deathmatch or whatever. And we could just go and play for a little while and be done with it. Cause attention spans, and I have ADHD, and he's a kid or was. And so, I just really liked it. Really liked it. I could be hammered and I could play it. Not that
I will say I did get the newest Star Wars Squadrons recently.
I love it.
And the gameplay quality on that is fantastic.
The gameplay quality in that is fantastic.
Ship management.
The ship management, flying an I flew a TIE fighter on a mission to attack this base, and it reminded me of the scene where Poe Dameron's flying the TIE fighter. He's like, whoa, this thing really moves, or whatever he says. And it was stunningly real. And I love flight simulators. I agree with you, Eric. All the flight games, I love them all. But damn, Squadrons, it's just like, holy cow. It's hard.
Power to the engine, shields on front. We're going an attack run, full speed. Let's go. I mean, it's like the adrenaline on that is actually really good.
The adrenaline on that is good.
Have they ever made a satisfying lightsaber fight experience outside of that terrible?
So I think the only way they can do that is they're going to have to produce one that is in VR and has some sort of haptic feedback or some sort of
Yes.
feedback in whatever you're holding, so that you have to hold something that not a controller, but feels like a lightsaber. Like it has to be a VR lightsaber.
Yeah.
And when you hit, you have to feel that pressure. Once they create something that uses accelerometers and makes it feel right, and then you have and I know there is a VR.
Lenovo put out something that was like
I haven't played it yet, but I know it
$100
exists.
standalone. You literally you get 2 lightsaber sheaths and the goggles, but standalone stuff like that does not sell well.
No,
It's
there's
so-
another one. There's another one
it's
that's
so-
not that.
Interesting. As you're thinking about that, Graeme, I was, thinking back to the statement of why Star Wars, right? And we have not experienced lightsabers, right? They're not real. And
Yep.
yet all of us know what they are not.
Oh, that's so
That's-
interesting.
I
Yeah,
can't really think of another
That's
thing that's
true.
like that, right? Where all of us are like, oh, no, that's not realistic. But what the heck is realistic? Right?
So
but
I
we
saw-
know.
Yeah, because like a
saw a
phaser
guy,
is a
Isn't that
gun.
weird?
There was a guy
Right.
that
A
put
blaster
out,
is a gun.
there was a guy that put out a video this week where he simulated some kind of like what he was calling a real lightsaber, and it was like he somehow had created a torch that was probably 4 feet long, and he was cutting through metal. And
It's plasma. Yeah.
it was like a plasma torch.
Meanwhile, if you didn't see, Disney released a video yesterday. They did this in a promo a few weeks ago of the real extendable lightsaber.
Oh right,
and they
we
released
talked.
an updated
Yeah,
video yesterday showing it.
I think
and
I'm gonna need one of those in my house for sure.
you're going to need one. Yes, I watched a good breakdown of the patent that they got for it, and it's basically the same physics as a tape measure. Imagine a pair of tape measures making a cylinder with a retractable LED and a motor driving it.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know if you can bash each other with them, if it will survive kids bashing each other, because that's what kids do with lightsabers. But it looks
That's right.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay. I have
Ryan-
one final bonus question, and this is maybe the hardest question we've had all evening. And I think if you've had more than a beer, at least one beer or more than one beer, I want to see what your take is. So, looking over my shoulder here, how many Baby Grogus is too many Baby Grogus? Because my wife wants to know the answer. She's the one that gave
Does
me this
Kermit
question and
count
said,
as a Grogu? Because I saw Kermit.
well,
back
you're right. I had Kermit kind of like, I don't know if he's humping
That's-
Baby Grogu, but he's definitely doing something back there.
Oh, Ryan's been drinking.
so I don't know.
We need
My
to
wife
have a
needs to know
talk
the
with your
answer
friends
because
here.
she asked if you could have like an intervention of some kind on the stream, and I don't know.
That's what this is, actually. Kim reached out, and this is the intervention. So,
Hey Ryan, so we're really glad you joined us today. You're in a circle of trust right now. We wanted to talk to you about addiction.
Right.
So if you don't
this
mind,
is a safe space.
I don't
This
have
is
a
safe
problem.
space,
I
buddy.
can quit anytime, y'all. I mean, come on.
You know what this is going to be? It's going to be like the scene in the Royal Tenenbaums when they go to confront Eli Cash, and he's like, "Thanks," and takes it seriously, and then he just jumps out the window and goes and gets high. That's what's going to happen here. He's just
That's
going to
exactly
go,
right.
"Guys, I
Out
love you."
with
exactly
arms full of Grogus. You're gonna
Yes.
like.
And then we're going to find him wandering the aisles of a Kmart
Yeah.
somewhere, like
Oh, yeah.
buying more Grogus.
Well, you know.
So I do have a final question, which is based on what Ryan is saying here, because Grogus are toys. So what's your favorite Star Wars toy? Right? Now, it could, and by the way,
Man.
full disclosure, this toy can be something you wanted but never got.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of those.
Yes.
I will.
Everybody's
I'm gonna
Can I
tell
go
you
first?
right
Can I go?
now.
Can I go first? Oh, you go first, Eric.
Oh, show us. I want to see it.
I'm just going to tell you that, oops, they're falling apart because I'm still unpacking the house here. But Star Wars Legos, I think, is just, as much as I collected the action figures and things as a kid, the joy I get from building, and these are mine. These are not my children's. These are my Star
I
Wars
know.
Legos, okay?
My children
the
better not
joy I
touch my
get
damn
from-
Legos.
Yeah, I mean, my children have unboxed Star Wars Legos in their rooms, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Give them to me. I will build them." I mean, endless pleasure from building
I totally
those
agree on the
and messing
Legos.
around with them.
Ryan,
so
you have the
satisfying.
Holy Grail, which you're not showing, which I'm
It
surprised.
goes another step further. Like I have the from Battlefront 2 on PS4. They put out a Lego set of the main character with her crew.
Ryan, what you literally have the Holy
Oh,
Grail. Why are you
my
not
bad.
showing it?
One moment. I've got to do an unveiling. Could I have a drum roll, please?
Oh wait, this drum roll is going to take a while. While he's going and getting his, I think we are going to have it quickly. Okay, here we go.
Are we?
Should be very
Are
exciting.
we going? Wait,
Is
are we
it-
going full Death Star? Really?
Is it what I think it is?
That's
You
it.
do have the Holy Grail.
That's
Yep.
it.
No, wait.
And
You
my-
got the 1970s version or the update?
Oh yeah. This is original, baby. The
Oh
only
my
regret I
God.
have is that I played with it so much, so hard, whatever you want to say, that the cardboard wall is completely destroyed. Like that's the only thing. That's the only
I
thing.
guarantee somebody remakes
missing.
them and you could buy
Oh,
one.
I'm sure. What I need to do is like pimp it out with LEDs. Have you seen how they're putting LEDs on Legos now? They're like lighting up Lego
Oh
ships
yeah,
with
I have.
LEDs.
So Ryan
Yeah, so my
has the
kids have
Holy
that
Grail.
version.
I don't have the X-wing anymore. Like the original Holy Grail was the X-wing, and then I got this when I was like
Yeah, because
years
the X-wing
later.
like popped open when they
Right.
locked the
The
S-4s in
X-wing,
attack
I
position.
completely destroyed
Oh,
that. It's
man.
gone. Like,
Susie, favorite toy?
I go ahead.
I'm a huge fan of Lego Star Wars. I will say that I got the BB-8 Sphero a few years ago.
Ooh.
And my favorite part is that you can watch the movies with BB-8
yes.
and it reacts.
Oh,
kind
it's
of
all over.
kind of the best thing ever.
Wow.
Yeah,
Kind of.
that's-
Not even
I
kind of.
I didn't know it did
No,
that. I didn't know you could
very-
do that. That's incredible.
Oh yeah. No, it's adorable. It goes woo, like especially if R2D2 is like a
Do you
danger.
have one of
Okay,
these?
I don't have one of those.
I just got this a week
I
ago.
have envy.
So
Droid.
here's what you do. If
That's
you
so
go on
cool.
Amazon right now, you
Yeah.
can get one of these for $6, and it's coming from
What?
Amazon Japan. So the box has Japanese writing on it, but it works.
Oh my god.
And what is it, Ryan?
It is a force
What is it?
band that you can control. So it's a Bluetooth, essentially a fancy looking bracelet, but you can wave your hand to control the Sphero droid. So it's like you're using the force.
Oh,
It's
That's so cool.
like the additional. Okay.
So
I'm gonna have to check
basically
that out.
pair it with either the BB-8 droid or the R2D2 droid,
Yep.
and you can just wave your hand to get it to drive around or whatever. Yeah.
And
So-
they're really cute interacting together. That's I only have BB-8, but if you have both of them, like it's pretty cool.
I
Yeah,
love that.
right?
I love
Right?
that. I'd have to go with
who
the
do you
X-wing.
think had more
I had that
fun?
one. Yeah, I'd have to go with the
Who do
X-wing.
you
I had
think had
that when I
more
was a
fun
kid.
making?
Go ahead, Eric.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead. Go,
here.
go.
I was just gonna say, who had more fun doing the voices? Alan Tudyk doing K2SO or Bill Hader doing BB-8?
Oh man, that's
Alan
a tough
Tudyk.
choice.
Alan Tudyk. He made that. That's what I'm gonna say.
I don't
That's my
know.
story, and I'm sticking to it. What's your favorite toy, Graeme?
Yeah.
So I would agree on the Millennium Falcon and the X-wing, but I really always wanted a snow speeder, and I
that
also
was
wanted
fun.
a Slave One because I thought it was really cool how it moved on the inside. But the coolest toy that I ever had was I had the original sand speeder. I had Luke's not sand speeder. What do you call it? The brown thing
Land
with the
speeder.
jets. Land speeder.
Land
Yeah,
speeder.
Land Speeder.
Land speeder. Who the hell am I? Land speeder. And that it was just a cool toy. They positioned the wheels so it totally looked like it was floating. I just was really able to get into the mindset of play. I look back very fondly on playing with toys as being not just fun because I love toys, but they were really imagination, like very reinforcing to my imagination. And I think I grew up to be a creative because I really enjoyed I was the baby of the family. I was far distant in age from my siblings. So a lot of my play early on was just me. And playing with toys at that young age really helped my imagination. And that, there it is. And that speeder just was the coolest to me. Just the coolest.
I got something for you. Watch this. It
That's
can be
incredible.
yours for the low price.
I always had a
I guess-
problem.
No, I don't know.
That's
I don't know what I'm watching. I just want one.
Nice.
That's amazing.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just like they stripped the frame off a car and stuck
problem
that on.
when
But yeah.
Film franchises would introduce toys.
What?
We're losing Eric.
I always had a problem when film franchises would introduce toys that weren't in the movies. It would drive me nuts.
Oh, introducing toys that weren't in the movies.
Eric is
How
frozen.
about now?
Yes. You're kind of coming and going, Eric.
Might be
So
better.
I think the problem is he's on a delay now.
Yeah. All right, I got
Could be.
one more thing to show you guys.
One more
And
thing.
We'll do
then we'll wrap it up.
final thoughts here, because we all have very important lives, and I think we're all going to go watch our favorite
Rogue
Star
One.
Wars after this with
I'm
our
watching Rogue
droid,
One.
with our droids or something. I'm pretty sure that's
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going to happen here.
Do it in the reaction mode. Best thing ever.
I think we need a watch party at some point. Check this out. I just want to brag about my family's tolerance for my obsession. Fully metastasized yesterday when I forced them to take 2 minutes out of their busy days.
There
to
is some
pose
teenage angst
for this photo. Oh yeah.
looks
yeah.
on those boys' faces, but
Oh,
I
man.
respect that tremendously.
Totally. I mean, they are just insane in the membrane. Yeah, it's wild. All right,
Impressive.
look at that. Check this out. We have Eric Lamb in the stream twice. I think
Eric, wow, we've got double Erics.
he cloned himself. All right. Well, that's the show, folks. Let's go around and do final thoughts. What does a final thought on Star Wars do for you? Like maybe it's what are you doing next? What are you geeking out about next?
My final thought is I hope it never stops. I hope they keep going. I hope they do more. Suzie, you made such a good point about universe building, or Eric, or whoever said it. I love it, and I hope I am someday in a retirement home still watching Star Wars, because not only the intergenerational connection and the creativity and the beauty of it all, and honestly, even when it sucks, I'll take it. like it's great, and I'll watch Bad Batch, the new stuff that has come out.
Mhm.
And so for me, that's my final thought. I hope Star Wars never stops.
Word.
Even if there's long periods where they don't do it. I hope it never stops. Suzie, what's your final
wish?
thought?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really difficult. Final wish. I am really, really keeping my fingers crossed that they just go for it and
Yes.
show us Thrawn
Yes.
in all of his blue, amazing glory and the Chiss ascendancy. Just do it.
Well,
it.
don't
We
you
will
think
love it.
that is Mandalorian season 3? I'm calling it right now. It's got to be.
Oh,
I
from
think
your
it's got to
lips.
be. I think it's got to be.
I think they're gonna get scared because they've had such success.
I don't
I'm
know.
hoping. I'm trying not to be cynical here, but yes, that is my fingers crossed.
I hear you. How about you, Eric? What are you wanting to happen with Star Wars, or what are you going to do with Star Wars next? What's your big thing? Or Eric,
Can you hear me okay, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So admission. So I'm a little older than you guys. I mean, I saw Star Wars in the theaters at 6 years old.
Gotcha.
Just a little bit. And full disclosure, when my first child was born in May of 1999, the very first time we left him alone was when he was a couple of weeks old to go to the theater to go see Phantom Menace in May of 1999. So I think I'm looking forward to.
But you mean you left him with
having
somebody else?
grandchildren.
You didn't leave him alone.
Oh, God, no. Come on. What kind of an ogre do you think I am?
He was ready to stand on his own. Don't worry.
But that was
Oh
our
my
first
God!
time
Duct tape
as
him to the bed,
parents
honey.
with a
We're going to
newborn.
Phantom Menace.
first time leaving your child,
There
your
you go.
first child with somebody else, that was
Oh,
but
totally.
I look forward
Absolutely.
to seeing this stuff with my grandkids.
Yeah,
And the
back on the
intergenerational
big
aspect
screen.
of
I'm
this,
hoping back. Yeah, we need them back on the
next
big
level,
screen too.
man.
Agreed.
Ryan, final thought?
Star Wars is awesome, and it's so much better than Star Trek. Boom, I'm out. Don't make me come across there.
Hey, man, that's kind of like
we just lost.
arguing
We just
about
lost
Eastern
Graeme.
versus Western North Carolina barbecue.
Oh, I know it is. But you're
Well-
Why
wrong.
not?
Eastern
not
North
both?
Carolina barbecue is the
Why
best.
not
Sorry.
both?
Why not
I
both?
know.
Why not
Man,
both?
You're
it's
right.
all
Why
good.
not both?
Okay,
Y'all
you know
stop.
how I'll give you that. If they could do a proper Star Wars crossover with Star Trek in the comic book, just like they used to do with like G.I. Joe and Transformers or Aliens and
Oh, they've
Batman
done
or
that.
whatever, I would love that. I don't think it's
It's
been
okay.
done.
I mean, when it comes down to
Marvel
Star
and
Wars versus
DC,
Star
yeah.
Trek, we all know Tron is the best. So,
There
listen,
we go.
Suzie, thank you so much for joining us. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Been
It
a
was
pleasure.
really cool to hear your thoughts on Star Wars.
What?
Ryan,
Come on. That was on purpose.
it was on purpose.
Doctor Who
May
would
the
like a
force
word
be
with
with you.
Right. I know, right? Let's go back. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining the show. Normally, if you're watching right now and you've made it through an hour and 11 minutes, we would normally be on Friday afternoons at 4:30. So catch us there on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, on wherever you enjoy the streams and the porgs and the droids and the grogus. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.